Looks like
Bear's bear, do bees bee, Matt's Matt.
All right, so it looks like I've got a little problem with the YouTube stuff, so I got to. Daniel's going to entertain you while I play troubleshoot.
Uh-oh, you need me to vamp?
Vamp, Daniel. Why did that? Looks like it started and then something happened. So I've got to make a quick change in skill jar.
What will I sing? Oh my goodness. How about Let It Go? I haven't heard that song anywhere near enough times in my house.
Welcome everybody. We're going to get started here in just another minute or two. Or I guess it's a few still. So just want to let you guys know that we're just waiting until the 1 o'clock hour here Eastern time, and then we'll get things rolling. But we're just hanging out for right now, making sure everybody can see and hear. And we'll let Daniel work his magic in a couple seconds.
Yeah. If you guys happen to have your chat windows handy, if you could do me a solid and just write out your name and where you're from. I'd like to know who I'm talking to. Ken from Philly. Hey, Ken. Dan is in Kansas City, and it's chilly there, apparently. Meredith in North Carolina. And Coralie from Paris. Finally, somebody else on European time. So I especially appreciate you because, you know, it's already 7 o'clock.
Into your evening, yeah.
Yeah, the dinner hour. Well, not in France or in Spain for that matter, but dinner hour other places.
It is, just past lunch here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. And Cassie in Ann Arbor, go gold. That's sacrilege for me to say that. I'm a proud Spartan, but
it's okay. You can appreciate Ann Arbor for what it is in the school, and because I have no allegiance to either, even though I live in Michigan. So
I see.
Go
Truth
blue,
be
go
told,
green.
I don't have a lot of school spirit in terms of athletics, but I do love MSU's campus. It's really beautiful. My wife misses it, particularly in fall.
So I'm an IU grad, and I'll say that their campus is also beautiful in the fall.
Where?
Indiana University.
Oh.
Bloomington. It's nice, quaint. It's not as big. Like I grew up here in Michigan, right around Michigan State. So I thought universities were all gigantic campuses. Like Michigan State University, for those who don't know, is a huge campus. Like it takes like half an hour or something more to walk, to get from classes across. And then I went to other schools that were not that big, and I was like, oh, well, this isn't nearly as impressive because it was just so large. So
yeah.
All right, we're almost at the top of the hour, so we're about to get started here. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We are glad that you could take some time out of your day, and we're really excited to have this going. So I'm going to do a couple things as we get going here. We are going to record this because we want to make sure we've got multiple redundancies, and then we've also got it going to the skill jar page or to the certification page where you can watch. If you just want to watch on YouTube, that's fine there in that page. But we're glad that you're here, and feel free to use the chat. So let's get this started with the recording.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Pierce, Learning and Video Ambassador, here with Daniel Park, who is our fabulous speaker today that's going to be sharing with us information about track mats in Camtasia. For everyone that's watching, if you want to watch, again, I just mentioned this, but you can watch on YouTube in the certification page, or join us in the Zoom webinar where you can type in the chat, and Daniel's going to be taking questions throughout this experience. So we're grateful that everyone is here. If you are having any technical issues, to put it in the chat if you can, or you can reach out to me directly and I'll see what I can do to troubleshoot. With that said, Daniel Park, as you probably have interacted with him, if you're in our Slack group for the certification, he's probably answered a question for you, pointed you in the right direction, something. He is also the person that we work with to help build our certification program. And he's a TechSmith alumni from a long time ago. He has done a lot of other things with his own screencasting, with his own screencasting consultancy, Dapper Text. And we are so grateful that he is here with us today. So Daniel, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I didn't even get a chance to ask.
We're good here, just in Michigan. It is a little snowy and cold. It's December day, but things are going well. So we're very happy.
But you're actually in the office today. That's pretty.
I am in my home.
Cool. You're in your home?
Yeah.
Oh.
We all stay home nowadays. That's the rule. So I just made it look like I was in my office. It's not super exciting looking. But Daniel, you got a great topic for us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about, and then we can start diving in and getting into examples, and we'll let folks start asking you questions too.
I do have a great topic. This is a brand new feature to Camtasia 20, track matting. Track mats have been around a long time in higher end image editing and animation tools. And basically what you're doing is you are looking at a piece of content through the lens of another piece of content. Which, it's really hard to conceptualize. I was telling Matt earlier and talking to my mom, she's like, what topic are you presenting? And I said, track mats. And she said, what's that about? And I said, I could show you. And showing you is just what I am going to do today. We have a bunch of examples of track mats. Some of them are a little bit esoteric, a little bit out there. It's not necessarily something that you would use in your everyday screencasting, but what I'm expecting to get out of that is to be able to, one, inspire you creatively and show you what some possibilities are, and also to sort of arm you with enough of a core basic knowledge that you'll be able to adapt it in pretty much any situation for your own projects. Was that good?
That sounds great.
All right.
I think for the sake of just, let's do this thing. Let's dive in, because I know there's plenty to cover.
There is definitely plenty to cover. So shall I jump into sharing my screen?
Yeah, let's do that. So,
okay.
And again, if you have questions, let them know. I am going to curate some of those questions, but if it's in the moment and it's really about the thing that's applying, I'll also, okay, sounds like I got a crazy stuff going on downstairs. I'll also let you all know, I'll try to jump in with Daniel. It's like, hey, Daniel, we got a question. So please don't hesitate to put those in. And, we want to hear from you guys too, because we want to make this is, well, yes, we want to present this to you, but we also want to make it as valuable for your time as possible.
Absolutely. So anyway, welcome to Track Mats in Camtasia. My name is Daniel Park, and I am the instructor, as most of you know, for the Camtasia certification program. Most of you have heard my voice before, probably to the point of annoyance. And today we're going to be talking about layering stuff on top of other stuff. So I'm going to, can you all see my my PowerPoint screen?
Oh. Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, super. So let's jump right in. So what's a mat? I don't know. What's a matter with you?
It's me, right? I'm a mat.
You are a mat. Oh, thank you. I'm here all week. Tip your server. So when most people think of mats, most non-technical people, when they say, did you put a mat on it? They think of a framed photograph or a framed illustration like the one we're looking at right here. Basically, you have an area that you can see and areas that you can't. Now, generally, what we're talking about is two pieces that interact. They fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. You have your content. If you look at my little picture here, in this case, the content is the apple juice. But apple juice doesn't have a form. It's just liquid. So what you need is some sort of guide, something that's going to take that content and give it shape. So how a mat works is that it provides the shape. The shape, it is essentially the container for your content. Okay. Perhaps a more apt example would be looking at a room or the world through a keyhole. You check this out here, you're looking at a mountain. You know, on the other side of that fence that there's an entire mountain range, an entire sky, an entire world on the other side there. But all you can see is this little heart-shaped snippet. And that's kind of what track matting does. This is our mat, this fence, and the cutout. And what lies beyond it is the content that we're matting. Okay? Now, one thing that matting is really, really good for is for adding some life to text. Now, I actually created this about 1,000,000 years ago. Well, I mean, it was probably more like 7 or 8, but it was 1,000,000 years ago in internet time. My wife is a teacher, and she ran a bilingual science class. And so we put this together as part of a presentation. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different mats in this one image that shows content, different content under each letter. And I really just love it. It's so colorful. And normally I look back at work I did 7 or 8 years ago and just cringe, but I don't know. I dig it. It's like the cover of a middle school textbook. It's fun. So basically, when we're talking about matting, you might ask yourself, what are mats good for in the world of screencasting? What can I use them for? And basically, the possibility is only limited by your creativity, but there are two main purposes. First, you have titling, which is kind of what this is. And second, you have transitions from one piece of content to another. Now, you've probably already examined some of your transitions that are built into Camtasia, but track matting opens up a whole new world of transitioning from one clip to another, and we're going to see some examples of that today. Okay, now there are two different kinds of mats that are supported in Camtasia. You have alpha mats, and this is probably what is going to be used about 80% of the time. Alpha mats are far and away the most common. You've no doubt worked with ping files and other kinds of images that have an alpha transparency layer, which means you can see underneath them. If the image is sort of irregularly shaped, if it's not a perfect rectangle, there might be areas where it's transparent. Like if you look at this wolf here, it's got this sort of jaggy cutout vibe that's really cool, but you can still see the green background in a lot of places. So when we talk about an alpha mat, basically, if I have this wolf as my alpha mat, anything where there's content, doesn't matter what color it is, it could be brown, white, whatever, pink. If there is content, you'll be able to see it. you'll be able to see what's underneath it. No content means transparent. There won't be anything there. And if it's semi-transparent content, if it's content that has its opacity reduced, then you'll see it but ghosted. Okay? So that's alpha mats. Then we have luminosity mats. Luminosity mats can be applied to basically any image can be applied as a luminosity mat, but they typically work best in black and white or in grayscale. So for a luminosity mat, if you have white, as we do here in this image over here on the side, we have a background in white. We are going to see what's underneath there. If we have black, as you can see on some of the shading of the leaves, it will be transparent. You'll be able to see through it. And if it's gray, then it'll be reduced opacity, ghosted. Okay? Now keep in mind that in Camtasia, you have the ability to flip your mats. I'm going to pop into Camtasia real fast. So here in track mat mode, I just right-clicked on this, on our visibility icon here, and that brings up our mat modes. You can see that I have alpha and that I have luminosity, right? But there are also inverted ones where it takes the rules and kind of flips them on their head. In other words, coming back here, then the white would be transparent, the black would be opaque. That way you don't have to do a lot of weird transposing of your image in Photoshop if it's not doing what you want. Okay? So let's now dive into some actual examples. And I got a bunch. Let's start with a really basic one. So I'm here in Camtasia and I've got just a regular blank black canvas. What I'm going to do is add myself a text annotation, right? Boom. And make it very important. It's fire, right? And you've seen this very sort of simple aesthetic with just white on black. But the fire is not feeling, I'm not feeling the heat right now with this. First of all, I think it needs to come up in size. So let's bring that guy up a bit. Now, if we wanted to make this feel a little bit hotter, we could adjust the color of the text, right? There we go. Yellow, orange, even red. But that's not hot enough for me either. I want to see some actual flames. So let's go in here and make that happen. Now, text is a great, great, great vehicle for track mats. So we're going to use this fire text as a track mat for some underlying content. Now I'm going to bring in that underlying content. I happen to have a fire video right here that I can bring in. And if I play it, there are my flames, right? Of course, it's on top of my fire text, so I'm not seeing the fire text anymore. Well, that's not good. Let me give myself a little bit more room, zoom in a skosh. Okay. So one of the core rules for using text is that it should be of a certain thickness so that you can actually see what's going on underneath it. And actually, I have these flipped. Fire should be on top. The fire text should be on top. The fire video should be below. Okay. Now I am going to use this text as a mat. Okay. So I right click here on that eyeball again and choose alpha. And now I have fire. Now you can see that the very thin text really isn't doing it any favors. You can't see enough of the flames, even with absolutely nothing else on the screen other than this on fire fire. It feels a little anemic to me. So what we're going to do is get into our fonts, and we want to pick a great big thick blocky typeface. What do I want?
I think Impact is a great one for big and blocky, Daniel, if you're looking for one.
Impact is indeed. Actually, I think I'm going to go with Franklin Gothic. And I'm going to scale it up even more. There we go. So let's play this back. Okay. That's on fire. Now, keep in mind that our sizing of these two can be adjusted separately. So I have this fire video that's actually taking up the whole screen, but because it's matted, you can only see this little part of it. But I can adjust, if I want to see a lot more variation in the flames, I might reduce the size of it, or I might blow it way up, right? I'm going to reduce the size, which leads to a lot more variation. But unfortunately, we're also seeing areas of black that sometimes make it a little bit difficult to make out the word, right? So what we're going to do next is I want to put a glow on this. It makes sense that there would be a glow if something was on fire. But unfortunately, this fire text is invisible. It's invisible. The only way you know it's there is because it's interacting with this layer that's underneath it. So if I put a glow on this, you're not going to see it. But there's something we can do. I'm going to select this. I'm going to copy it, right? And let's put another layer on here. And I'm going to insert a track below on the bottom underneath the fire, okay? Paste it in. You can't tell any difference here because this is underneath our fire text. But if I add a glow to it, you will be able to see the glow. So let's go over here to our visual effects. And we'll add ourselves a nice glow. There we go. And you can adjust the radius. You can adjust the intensity. I like it just a little bit orange. See, now you can see a nice outline for your text where it stays nice and legible regardless of what's going on inside it. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you another text-based one. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to close this out. I'm not going to bother saving because that's how I roll. And we're going to import a couple of pictures. Okay. Say you were doing something for a travel company. I don't even know if those exist anymore in the age of COVID, but we'll pretend like they do.
Hey, Daniel, real quick. One question before we move too far into the new project is
Sure.
Anthony was asking, why does the glow show from the bottom layer? Which,
Because it radiates outward from where the actual text is. In other words, you are seeing the background. Oh, now I now I regret having closed it. Um, you see the text. You see the glow radiating outward from the text. So there's nothing to impede it being seen because it's extending beyond the borders of the original text.
yeah, the
Does that
glow is
make sense?
technically wider and or taller, or it's going around the size of the text. So it's
More
actually bigger.
dispersed.
Yeah.
More dispersed. Yeah.
And another question that was just asked was, what do the colors placed left to the track names mean?
The colors placed to the left of the track names.
So
I'm not entirely sure what that means. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm not sure either, but Coraline, maybe we'll see it again, or you can if you have maybe a little bit more clarity on what you're asking about. But there might be when you have multiple tracks, maybe there's some things I don't know. I don't remember if the tracks show you different colors or not, but
Yeah.
it just might be an
I
indicator to show it's a different track.
yeah.
Oh, when the track mat was applied, some color code appeared. Yes, so it's I believe it's showing when there's a track mat. It's helping you to see that track is reserved for the track mat. You can't
Yeah.
put other things later on. If you say you had a 2-minute video, you couldn't put other things down the line on that track mat. So it does take up kind of the
Yeah.
entire track.
And in this one, I'll actually go into that. So thank you. And if I don't break in, Matt, and rudely remind me, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So say you were doing something for a travel company about and wanted to do something about the Swiss Alps. She actually looks kind of Swiss with with the blonde pigtails. But anyway, let's do a little something, a nice message saying, visit the beautiful Swiss Alps. Okay. So let us go ahead and um, we're going to add our text. So I'll come back in here. All right. Um, Size of the text. So visit the, and I'm going to put this next one on the next line. Be a beautiful Swiss Alps. Okay. Right now, it's not looking, there's a lot of busyness here and it's very difficult to see. Okay. So we're going to have to see about how we adjust that. Let's again pick a nice big blocky font in which it didn't take. There it is. Okay. And I want them to be able to see the beautiful Swiss Alps through my text. Okay. So one thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to separate this from the background. So I think what I'm going to do here is put something underneath it. Okay. Okay, good. And I like that I have this little tail here because I can make it seem like it's coming from her computer. Okay. And we can adjust the colors if we want to. In fact, one little trick that I tend to use quite a lot is to use, assuming I'm not bound to a company's corporate colors, is to use my eyedropper and to then actually pull something from the image itself. I don't like that one. It's too dark. Okay. Now, what I want to do is have this text interact with my Swiss Alps picture. So we're going to add ourselves another track just below it, because again, the text is going to serve as our mat. Okay. And let's bring in, oh, I already did, bring in our Alps picture. Visit the beautiful Swiss Alps. Okay. And now I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to say alpha. And it says, visit the beautiful Swiss Alps. Boom. And now I think the color of this call out is just all kinds of wrong. That's better. But you notice that this still is a little bit of an eyesore. It's just not looking right. Part of it is that it needs to go up in size. So let's boost it. Okay, maybe a little too boosted. Okay, I like that. But we're not done yet. I wonder what would happen if I made this bold. Apparently nothing. And one thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to get rid of some of this excess spacing, especially on the vertical end. So let's draw this in. And now you can actually see that there's a halfway cohesive image in there. We're going to also dial in the horizontal spacing so that it's more of a block. Okay. Now let's come down here to Jan callout. Make it a little bit bigger. I think we're going to make it white. Okay. Now, something that we can do is we can move this around until we have something that we're happy with. Like I might want to crunch the size down a little bit. Okay. And I don't know why this is. Okay, something's wonky. Oh, I know, because it's the edge of the it's the edge of the Swiss Alps image. That's why. So I need to move the.
You keep selecting the text, I believe, and you might need to. You might need to
Text
untrack
needs
it
to
for a
come
second.
out, and Swiss Alps comes this way, and the text comes back this way. Okay, back in business. Okay, so we now have this visit the beautiful Swiss Alps. If we wanted, we could do another copy of this text, right? Similar to what we did with the glow. We'll put it under the Swiss Alps one. And maybe this time we want to do drop shadow on it. I'm torn. I think it might be a little too busy now. Now, one aspect that's kind of cool here I'm assuming that this is what you were talking about, Coralie. That the red and the purple right here, right? So basically this is saying this track is a mat, and the purple is saying this track is affected by a mat. Okay? So the text is the mat. It's choosing what inside this layer of content gets seen. Okay? Here's a cool little thing that I'm going to show you. We can make this a little bit more dynamic by actually animating the background of the Swiss Alps. So if I come over here and I add an animation, Shift A, so it's animated, it's added down here, and I drag it out, right? Now I can take this and I can move it. Don't want to move it all the way off so that the letters no longer show. And so let me zoom way in and show you what that looks like. You can actually see the landscape go by inside the text. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this particular track because we didn't end up doing a drop shadow. I'm also going to select this text, and I'm going to move out the horizontal spacing just a skosh, just a touch, because I do want these to be separate letters. And we'll have to move our Alps image so that that S doesn't get cut off. Let's make sure it isn't cut off at the beginning either, which it is. Okay. So we have this beautiful panoramic effect within the text itself, which is fun. Now, one thing that's vitally important with track mats is doing a little bit of cleanup work. Okay? Because say you did this as a title and you wanted to go on and start adding screencast content, right? So I'm just going to grab this little bit right here, right? If it happens that I end up on this track here, no matter how far it goes on, this layer, this track, will always have a track mat on it. So when I'm over here, I see nothing but black. And why? Because there's nothing in the mat and nothing to exert influence on it. It's basically just a black hole. So it's like this track isn't even there. Watch what happens if I actually extend this text. Then you can see the screencast footage underneath it. Well, that's not what we want under any circumstances, but there's a way that we can clean this up. We're going to make this self-contained. And how do we make items in Camtasia self-contained? I'm asking you as if you're not all muted. You group them. So if I were to right-click, come over here, or press Control-G. So I have this visit the beautiful Swiss Alps, right? And now what I can do is I can right-click on this eyeball again and set track mode to none. Get rid of that track so that it isn't appearing for the entire length of my video. Because if I open up this group, you can see that Camtasia is smart enough to apply the matting just on this particular layer inside that group. Make sense? Okay. Now you can mat more than just text. Well, actually, you know what? Before I go on, are there any questions before I close this one?
No questions in the chat right now, Daniel. So I would say let's just keep, we've got about 25 minutes left. So let's keep blazing forward.
All right, we're going to plug away. I'm going to have to pick up speed. Okay, so let's import a little something. I have a couple of items here that I'm going to import. Okay. Now I'm going to change. Oh gosh, Matt, how do I get rid of my my bars? You know what? I'm just going to pull my Camtasia window down. I'm trying to access my project settings and Zoom was in my way. So I'm going to change the canvas to white. Okay. Okay. So I have this beautiful swirl here. And I want to apply a matte to it. So far, we've only been using text as mattes, but you can use pretty much anything. You can use shapes, you can use pieces of clip art. It usually makes sense if they have some level of transparency to them. Otherwise, what's the point of using them as a matte? So I'm going to get the middle of this because I want to spin it around, right? Spin it around, nice psychedelic effect. Okay? But nobody wants to see a square spinning in space. That's not attractive at all. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go here to my annotations and I'm going to go to my shapes. And I know that somewhere in here I have a perfect circle. There it is. So let's drag this on down to my timeline. And by the way, a neat trick is if you want to make sure that something is centered on your canvas, you just drag it to your timeline and circumvent the canvas altogether. So I'm going to scale this guy up. And it's obviously a yellow circle, but the color isn't going to matter because we're using this as a mask. And what happens when you make something a mask? It disappears. The only thing that's going to remain is whatever is underneath it that happens to fall within that circle. Okay? I do alpha, and now look. I have this beautiful thing that I can then, oops, rotate to my heart's content. I was rotating the circle. What happens when you rotate a circle? Nothing, because it's perfectly round. Okay. Doesn't really look great with a white background. So let's go in here and I'm going to add a picture of this young girl, scale it up a little bit so that we don't have any letterboxing. And she's got a lollipop, but I want to replace her lollipop. So I come in here. And I'm going to want to select both of these to move and scale them at the same time. Okay? And there we go. Not really digging the black and white. I'm not sure if this is like a licorice flavored lollipop or something like that. Either way, not particularly a fan. But what I can do here is go into my visual effects and I will go to color tint. I'll tint that guy up and we can make the lights one color, say like orange. And we can make the darks another, say like a deep red. Okay. And after that, all we have to do is add ourselves an animation to the swirl. All right. Come over here, spin it around a couple of times. And here's what we're left with. Woo. Okay. And of course, you know, this is an illustration. If I wanted something a little more photographic, I could always come in here, replace the footage of the swirl, get rid of the color tint. Now it looks like that the center is just a little bit off, so you might have to touch it up a little bit inside of the circle. So, and this might be kind of a difficult thing to get right. But that looks better. It still looks lopsided. But anyway, you get the idea. And again, how do we clean up? We select all of the pertinent layers, we group, and then we rid ourselves of the matte because it's no longer needed. It's already inside the group. Okay. All right. Well, that was a basic shape. Okay. But you can utilize transparent images that are considerably more elaborate than that. If we go back here to our presentation, I have this wolf here and it's got like really all these really cool jaggy bits to him. Like he's almost made of broken glass. I really love this image. Why don't we use this? Why don't we use this for something? Say that any questions before I move on from Lollipop Girl here?
No, none right so far. But again, just a reminder, if you do have questions, throw them in. We'll make sure they get answered.
All right, rock on. So starting up a brand new project and bringing in, I've got a couple of things that I want to bring in here. Say you have you're working with a company that wants to do tours, guided tours of national parks, starting with Mesa Verde National Park. Okay. And they say, you know, their name is Lone Wolf Tours, and they want to use their logo, but they don't care if you have a little bit of fun with it. Obviously, this is something that you really want to check with organizations because a lot of companies are very particular about their logos. They have style guides and very explicit rules about what you can use and what you can't. But this is a small group of tour guides, and they said, take our logo and come up with something amazing for it. I'm like, okay, challenge accepted. So what I'm thinking is one particularly compelling feature of the Mesa Verde National Park are the cave drawings that have been around for, you know, millennia. So I want the the basic, almost obligatory shot of the landscape and the mesas. But I also want to be able to work in this glorious cave drawing, okay? And I thought, why don't we have the cave drawing be in the shape of the wolf? All right? So this wolf is going to be our mat. The cave drawing is going to be what the mat affects. So let's get our wolf down here. And again, you can see how wacky that transparency is. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and we're going to turn this wolf, and it might take a little bit of experimentation on our part because there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot going on, but we're going to go ahead and do the alpha mat. Right now, nothing to write home about. By the way, just to show you what it does, here's alpha invert. So now you have the cave drawing with the wolf actually cut out. And by the way, and as an alternative design, it might not actually be that bad, right? You have the wolf with the mesa appearing through him, right? So that would be an interesting way to go about it, but that's not what I want to do. I want the wolf with the Mesa Verde carvings. And I can play with this, with the size and with the location of it within the image. I want to put it right about there. I really like how this sort of natural line kind of forms the bridge of the wolf's nose. And I think I want to keep that. Okay. Here's a problem, though. Right now, the brightness and the color range are very similar between the cave drawing and the mesa landscape. They don't look good together, and they're competing for attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank.
Just we have a question. Continue what you're doing, but once you get through that, I want to ask a question in a second.
Okay. We could turn it way down, in which case the bright object would be the wolf. But, with such a glorious landscape, I'm not sure that that's the right way to go. So what I'm going to do is, rather than having a black background, I'm going to have a white background again. Okay. And for some reason, it's still showing me black. Okay, that's odd. Okay, let's try that again. Project settings. For some reason it didn't take. Okay, now it's good. So come back here. And I think what I want to do, this is a very big image and I have plenty of room to play, is don't want the whole thing, just the sky with maybe a mesa over here, right? Sometimes when you want to move things around, it's a good idea to lock the things that you don't want moved. Now I can move this guy around with reckless abandon and they can't stop me. Okay.
So Daniel, the question that was asked, and I think it's a good one where we're at, is Corley again says, I don't understand why we saw the mesa instead of the carvings, because it was not the track directly below.
Okay. Basically, the two things that you need for a track mat are the mat, in this case, the wolf shape, and what you're matting. In which case, in this case, it's the carvings, right? Anything that you put underneath it is incidental. It's going to serve as background. So this mat affects this, but it does not affect this. Okay.
And Daniel, isn't it the type of mat that you're choosing? Because you're not choosing an alpha, you're choosing luminosity.
No, I am choosing an alpha.
You are choosing alpha.
Mat.
Okay. Yep.
You can see that there are all kinds of colors here, but this is an alpha mat. This is the presence of content versus the absence of content. So you have this layer of alpha transparency that shows where things show up and where things show through. Okay. And I can go in here and move it up. I still think the background competes a little bit. I think what I want to do is I'm going to use the color adjustment and I'm going to desaturate it. The default settings aren't giving me what I want, but I'm going to zero out the brightness and the contrast. And then I'll kick up just enough saturation where you can see a little bit of blue up here. And I think that looks way better. Then with this one, all that's left is to add a bit of text. Again, we can choose the color from our cave painting here. Kick up the size. Find something appropriately westerny. I like the Zilla slab.
And Daniel, we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, so just
you're kidding. I have so much to cover.
Time flies as we're having fun, but I do want to make sure people are asking. If you have any questions, this is a good chance. Anything that you want to know about track mats, put it into the chat. And Daniel, maybe if you've got a couple other pointers that you want to, maybe highlight or help us to understand, because I know that, and I work around this stuff a lot, that, these are things that take a lot of practice to get understanding of and really kind of gain the core principles. So I encourage everybody, first of all, practice, but then also, make sure you've got a question. Let's keep going. And Dan is suggesting we need a part 2, which I'm sure we can figure something out.
Absolutely, we can figure something out. Because I created a whole bunch of these. So anyway, you can do like Mesa Verde tours. Lone Wolf Mesa Verde tours. Okay. Now, they typically say in design programs that, we have this wolf here, and they say that if you want to get your text read, it's good to have somebody looking at it. In this case, we don't have a person, but we do have a wolf. So I could turn this guy around 180 degrees and have him face the other way, right? But I don't know. I think it kind of suggests isolation and sort of lone wolfness to have him looking off into the distance.
And Daniel, we had a question if we could get a look at for the wolf, an inverted alpha. Just again, if you could show that, what that would look like.
You bet. Alpha invert. Right now, because we've been tweaking it, it doesn't look very good. We would have to resize the cave paintings. We would have to move the wolf to, maybe this mesa in the distance. We would take this text, make it a sky color. It still would be too busy for this, but we could maybe turn it bold and possibly put something underneath it. Okay. All right. Now I have a few that I'm gonna skip because I want to show you transitions and I want to show you a luminosity matte. And fortunately, we can do both of those in a single project. Okay, we're going to have to come back for the others, I think. All right. So say we have, I'm just going to pick a couple of things at random. Our lollipop gal and the screencast pricing thing. I'm also going to bring in a couple of videos, okay? And say I have this image, right? We'll scale it up. And I have this bit of screencasty looking footage, okay? All right. Now, typically, if you wanted to transition from this to this, you would go to transitions, slap a transition down, and Bob's your uncle. But you want to be a little bit of a rebel, and you want to have a transition that isn't going to look like everybody else's transitions. Notice here that I have a couple of videos. There's this guy right here, and another one right here, going from black to white or white to black, right? We are going to use these as a matte. Now, obviously, we're not going to use it as an alpha matte because they are wall-to-wall content. They are different colors. It's white in some areas and black in others, but it covers the entire screen. So we're going to use a luminosity matte, okay? Now, we talked about alpha mattes, that the content, where there's content, that's where you're going to see what's underneath. In this case, with luminosity mattes, it's where there's white that you're going to see what's underneath. All right? So let's take a peek at this. I'm going to bring this video down here. And let's see, it's about 5 seconds long. All right? So let's come in here, and I need to add another track just above. All right? Because we need to have a certain amount of overlap in order for this to work. Okay? So now we have the end of the Lollipop Girl, the beginning of the screencast footage, and we have this video, right? And for some reason, this is enormous. Let me come in here. Oh, no wonder it's at 4K. All right, so we apply 1080p. So we're going to have to back this gal back out. back our screencast footage back out. Sorry about this. Drat. Okay. Okay, good. And now we have the video footage, which we're going to make 100%. Okay. Now we are going to use this guy as our mat. So if I come in here and choose to make it a Luma mat, whoops, luminosity mat. By the way, they're often called Luma mats in other applications. So if you hear Luma mat, think luminosity mat. And so now you're seeing where those first few drips happen, you're seeing what's underneath, right? Bloop, 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 bloop. But there's a problem. Once it comes off the end here, since there's nothing in the matte layer from this point onward, you're getting nothing but blackness because this doesn't have a matte to shape it. Therefore, it's completely transparent. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to this point, and I'm going to press S to split this off. Okay? So this is now its own thing. We're going to take these three guys, and we're going to group them. And now all we have to do, as a matter of cleaning up, is change this matte back to none. And you see that it stays. Is that making sense? Any questions?
No questions so far, Daniel. It's looking good. Everyone's very appreciative of what you've shown us.
Well, fantastic. Do I have, I don't have any time left, do I? Shoot.
We are a little bit over, but do you want to just, because I imagine with that transition, you can actually switch if you ungrouped it, you could switch the luminosity type, right? And because it is a black and white image.
If I skip the luminosity type, I'll show you what happens.
And go to invert that. You could have a different transition.
I have to ungroup this first. So coming back, there's our luminosity, right? Bloom, bloom, bloom. And if we did luminosity invert, then it would go the opposite way. But the problem is it's now on the wrong side. In other words, I have a girl, and then suddenly it jumps to this, and it flows back into the girl, and then it jumps to my screencast pricing. So basically, the only time that you would want to use luminosity invert, I'm going to actually close this one. Remember, we're at black and it goes into white, right? Starts black, goes into white. So let me get rid of this, and I'll bring in this other one. There's white, goes into black, goes into white. Say I wanted this little bit where the black goes into white, okay? So let's trim that. Black goes into white. And that's all I want of this one, okay? So we're going to have to adjust the length of this down. Okay. Now, because we're going from black to white instead of white to black, we are going to want the inverse, the luminosity invert. Okay. Actually, nope, I'm wrong. We want the regular.
Well, that's the fun thing with all this. We get to do a lot of trial and error and test things out. And but I think we should probably wrap up so we can let all the good folks that have attended get back with their day. But Daniel, this has been really fantastic. I've learned a few things. Excited to go and get some materials to try. I know I want to talk. We'll talk later, Daniel. But there's a question if we could share some of those materials, and we'll see if we can make that work. If we do, maybe we can put a few things in the Skill Jar course or the certification course where you came to get access to the webinar. We'll put some things there. Just give us a day or two to get that worked out, and we'll look at doing this again. And so we want to thank everybody who has attended our webinar. Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
You got some, thanks for a presentation and all the tips, clap, clap, clap. So thank you so much, because we know, everyone out there, that, certification covers a lot, and we hope that you're getting a lot of value out of those courses. We hope that you're able to expand your knowledge of Camtasia, but we know, a lot of what Daniel's shown today and what I think comes with Camtasia is experience and practice and experimentation. Will make you better if you really want to be that expert level. And so, Daniel, thank you for sharing your time and your expertise with everybody. So
it's absolutely my pleasure.
So thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording now, and we're going to kick off of YouTube here when we get. I need to make sure it streams for just a little bit longer so we don't cut somebody off there watching in just inside the course and not in Zoom. But Daniel, so let's do a real quick recap. Top 3 things you need to remember about using track mats. What would you say?
Top 3 things. It's great for taking something and making a container for it so that you only see part of it.
Make a container.
And it's great for titling, and it's great for transitions. And as for what you can make, what you can use to make a mat, you can make text, you can use text, you can use shapes, and you can use any image with transparency or a stark black and white contrast.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. We're going to let everybody go here. And if you do have questions, don't forget, hang out in the Slack channel. We've got Daniel's there. I try to be there. We've got other folks hanging around that are willing to help you answer any of the questions that you might have.
Absolutely.
So, thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys hopefully again in the future.
Thanks, everyone.